Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 21st, and I just wanted to check in and see how everyone was doing, to say hello, to let you know you're, of course, still in our prayers here, that we are still receiving your prayer requests that you're sending in. They are still being added to our binder. We're praying for them at all the masses that we celebrate here. And also, as today, in addition to being part of our 50 days of Easter celebration, there's also another memorial happening today that is a very important one. Today is Yom HaShoah, is observed here in the United States. It is the annual day where we remember those victims of the Holocaust in Europe in the late 30s and early to mid 1940s. Ordinarily, when I was at St. Mary's, every year there would be a ceremony marking this event with readings and remembrances of witnesses to the Holocaust, to those who had survived it, to basically to give both those who are still here, still living, to remember those people, and to remember how wrong we as human beings can be when we're left unchecked, when we're not living out that relationship with God as we are called to do that. How we can really be truly cruel to one another. There are a couple of books I'd like to recommend to you. I mean, the writings that came from the Holocaust, from survivors, from those who knew them, from their children, the stories that were shared. That there's hundreds and hundreds of books that have been written. There are a few that I do recommend, especially since we've got time as we're in this quarantine. You should have lots of time to read, and of course, if you have access to Amazon, you can order these books. Or if you simply, have able to download them to an e-reader, that's of course a lot easier. There are a few. One of my the books that I've gone back and read a number of times is a book called Priest Block 25487, a memoir of Dachau, which was written by a priest named Jean Bernard. And his story is pretty powerful. They actually did a movie about this called, I think The Ninth Day is the name of the movie. But he was a priest who was in prison at Dachau. He actually was released to go home, I think, for his mother's funeral. And then he actually came back, which his captors were amazed that he returned. But in this, there's this story of a man who, we would think at as priests that, you're living out that call of Christian discipleship, that you're getting it right all the time. But it's a good reminder of our own humanity. He talks in here very openly about his struggles in the camp, about those times when maybe he failed to be as charitable as he could have been. But through it all, even struggling to maintain his faith in that very dire and desperate situation, he, of course, survived the camp and was able to write this story. But it's a very powerful read. It's definitely a good reminder of our own humanity and the challenges we can face when we're put to the test, and a reminder maybe to be patient with ourselves, but also to remind ourselves to call ourselves to that holiness that we're all called out to live. Another good book that's come from this was Man's Search for Meaning, which is written by a man named Viktor Frankl, who basically his experience at the camp was that he found that it was not so much the conditions you're living in that were important, but why you were trying to survive. That the meaning is in what it is that you're living for. Again, it's a very good read. It's a good book. And lastly, this is a pretty tough one to get through. It's a very short book, but the images here are very painful, and it's tough to read. Just the inhumanity that prisoners suffered at Auschwitz, especially our Jewish brothers and sisters. And there's a passage here in the book where a young boy was put to death for collaborating with the Nazis, and the quote question is asked as this young man is hanged. Someone behind Eli Wiesel, who wrote this book, where is God? Where is God in this? Just struggling to make sense of the evil that he was seeing. And the response, the inner voice to Mr. Wiesel was, he's right there. He sees him on the gallows and says, God is right there. And of course, over the years, there's been a number of interpretations of what that actually meant and what the author meant by that. Was it signifying the death of his belief, the death of his faith? Or was it something more literal, like that God is indeed present there, even in suffering, even in death? God is still there. So too with all of us, even today. That is something that we could say, even when we're suffering, even when we're alone, even when we struggle. Where is God? He is right here. He's right here with us. And certainly he is always even made more present when we are able to open our hearts to others. God is certainly there. He's certainly there with us. And so I just encourage you to hang in there. I know that this time of quarantine is challenging for all of us. I wish you a very blessed and continued blessings into the Easter season, and have a good day. God bless you.